So excited that y'all stuck around. First of all, I told y'all it was smart, sexy, and funny. Right. Well, let's go ahead and bring to the stage the woman that brought us this incredible story and, of course, got Nicole Kidman to portray it along with Mr. Harris. So please welcome to the stage the writer and director of Babygirl, Halina Reijn. Thank you so much for being here, Halina. I was blessed to see this at the Venice Film Festival, and I love Venice, but they're not like this crowd, which was giggling and laughing like I was. They were squirming, they were so infatuated with it, but I'm curious, where did this come from you? Like, because I know for a lot of writer-directors, there's like a meditation, there's a moment when you're like, okay, this is why I want to write this. What was that for you with Babygirl?
I think it was basically my own sort of troubles, if you will, with really trying to accept and sort of love all the different layers of myself and not succeeding, and really not liking certain parts of myself and being ashamed about it. And I thought, what if I make a fun, sort of seductive movie that kind of celebrate those parts of myself that I hate and that I don't want to look at, just to maybe tell myself to chill out a little bit about it.
Have you chilled out about it yet?
Well, and do have to say that what I find most exciting is to have these kind of moments, to talk and be together after watching the movie, because I just see it for myself as a very expensive tool to start a conversation, you know? And it's a provocation, and hopefully it's entertaining, that's what I hope, and it's, you know, but in the end I do want to talk about these things because I do struggle with them in my life.
One of the things I think is interesting with Romy, the character, I mean, we're really there where this is a woman who's been loved, she's had success, and in every aspect of her life, she has so much, but it shows just how unfulfilled you can be if certain aspects aren't given and certain aspects or certain parts of who you are not seen and represented. So I'm curious, when you first started talking to Nicole about this, was she like, because I feel like she's not you, she's just putting on this Romy persona, but she's got to feel that same level. And I'm curious where she found that level of like, this is a dark side of me I'm letting out.
Yeah, the weird thing was that, so she found me after she saw my first tiny movie called Instinct, a Dutch movie that you can't even see in the US, it's hard to see here. But she found it somehow and contacted me, and so we started to work on a project that she brought me from Blossom Film, and I really enjoyed it, and I got the confidence to write in English, but I did Bodies, and that was so exciting.
Yes, bodies, how to stand up.
Yeah, and I loved doing that movie. And then after that, I got so inspired in A24. I was very happy, and they were like, "Why don't you write something yourself?" And then I had to call her and tell her, "Sorry, but I'm gonna stop everything." And I was scared, but she was super supportive. But she stayed in touch, and she kept asking, "Send me a draft, send me a draft, send me a draft." But I was like, "I'm not ready, I'm not ready." And then I did, and then she just called me and she said, "I'm gonna do this." So it was not at all that I had to convince her. So I think she just found something on those pages that she could relate to. But I think also, to be honest, for actresses, because I was one myself, I'm retired now, but it's not that easy to find material, especially not later in our lives, after 40, let's say, to find material that is actually juicy and interesting and complex and dark, and where you can be weak and a little filthy, and you know, it's hard for women to find that, and I think she was just like excited to show her full range where she is right now in her career.
She really is. I mean, I will just say it. This woman that did Eyes Wide Shut, this erotic thriller Christmas movie is nothing new to her, but she goes places in this one that we have not seen before. I want to talk a little bit about Harris because we see him. He is clearly something that is an object of desirability, but there's a lot more to the character of Samuel. And I'm curious what made you know that Harris Dickinson, yes, could be the boy that we would risk it all for, but also show that vulnerability of Samuel, that danger of Samuel, and all the other things.
Yes, no, I think, and also the humor is so important for me in the movie and in his performance. And yes, we were looking for a lot of things, right? Because you know you have Nicole Kidman, and then you need a young man who's able to dominate her in the scene, and also be super vulnerable and change into almost kind of like childlike behavior at times, and then be very funny and sort of a comic, let's say, kind of form of being a Gen Z kid, you know, if you will. So all of those things, and then I saw Triangle of Sadness, and I was immediately so captivated by him, and then I saw Beach Rats, which I don't know if you saw, but it's an amazing film. And he has that danger that not a lot of male actors have, I find. And yet he is so incredibly kind and warm. And when I explained to him, I'm looking for an acting style in this movie that really talks about what is real and what is fake, right? We open with a fake orgasm and we end with a real one, but the whole movie is about performing. The whole movie is about trying new things with each other, and that can feel very performative in the beginning. You kind of don't believe yourself, and you're like, sorry, let me do that again. You know, it's almost like an actor's exercise, these scenes. And so it takes someone with a lot of technique to do that, and he can do all of that. And he just is incredibly charming and incredibly funny, but most of all, incredibly skilled.
I want to talk about this because you're also the writer of this. Because so every word that Samuel says that came from her brain, same thing with Nicole. But when did you know that you wanted to get Harris to dance half naked to George Michael's father figure? Because I would just like to peek inside your brain the day that made the draft and thank it and thank it.
Okay. Well, I had this song, so at a certain moment I had this kind of plot where I thought a powerful woman, it's a comedy of manners, falls in love with her intern who dominates her sexually. And then Father Figure just has been sort of my anthem, if you will, for a long time. I love that song. And so before I actually started to write down the one pager that I started with, I knew I wanted to have Father Figure. I even called the head of A24 Film. I said, can we get the rights to Father Figure? And not knowing how the American system works at all. He's like, are you out of your mind? Like, you haven't written one word on a piece of paper? No. And so I immediately envisioned a scene that would be a mirror to a movie called 9.5 Weeks. I don't know if you know that movie, but if you don't, watch it.
Kim Basinger and Mickey Rourke, put it
Yes.
on your Fandango at home.
Yes, and he is sitting in a chair in that film, and she's dancing for him, stripping on a song by Joe Cocker, Take Your Hat Off. And it was a very, very famous moment back in the day, and I just thought it would be fun to mirror that and swap the genders and play with that. And because he presents as a dominant force actually in my movie, Samuel, I thought it would be very interesting to see him more vulnerable, because when a man has to dance for a woman, you can see it in his eyes. He's doing it, and it is very sensual, but he's also a little bit nervous and insecure about it, and I really love that quality. And then I told my DP, who's operating the camera himself, I said, you have to dance too. So it's not just him. So he was dancing, and it was so funny because we were all alone in that space because, you know, it's a closed set. And so it was basically me and Nicole watching Jasper, my DP, and Harris dance with each other.
Oh, you are living daily dreams on that set. Sometimes I will say, as a writer-director, it may feel a bit like a nightmare because there's things you have to do and the light doesn't work or the dog isn't cooperating. But I'm curious, what was the day, what was the scene, what was the moment that Halina, the director, really wanted to go and scold Halina, the writer? Like, why did I write it like this? This is so hard to execute. I really wish I would have made this easier for myself. What is that scene? What was that moment?
Oh, that was almost every day. Because you can write this in your little house being like, oh, this is exciting, like this is sexy, oh my God. And then you actually have to tell people to go do that. That is a nightmare. So when you wake up in the morning, especially because I was an actress myself and I know how embarrassing and how incredibly vulnerable doing something like that can be. So for instance, the scene in the red room in the hotel room where they have their first sexual encounter, I was so nervous for that scene. I was nervous for the luxurious hotel room where he has to do the dance, because there's all these different parts of that scene where, you know, where he sticks his fingers in her mouth and, you know, all these intense scenes. But The scene with Antonio Banderas where she kind of confesses her most inner secrets, and tells him, I cheated on you, that was something that we were all maybe most nervous about, because it's such a long scene, there's so much dialogue, and it's so many emotions, and he had to really be vulnerable in that scene and then become super aggressive. So those are also scenes that you, just as much as the sexual scenes, that you're really afraid of. And then there's something like The Rave, which is that is so hard to produce. You're with so many background actors, and the funny thing was Nicole loves to dance, and she can never really go to a rave anymore because she's just too famous to do that. And so she was so excited. She just kept dancing, like even in between takes, and she never wanted to leave. So that was incredible. That was incredible. So every day, at the end of the day, I was so happy, of course, and excited about what we got. But at the beginning of the day, you really sit in that van thinking, why did I write this? Why this?
Yes, I do love that. I want to talk also a little bit about the good girl of it all.
Now that nobody's here, we can just...
Yes, now that we can do it. Well, wait a minute. Did you know that that was something that was, because I've talked to, first of all, anybody like romance novel readers here? Okay, we've got a few. Thank you. That is a very big thing in the romance novel genre. That is very big in like book talk or whatever. Did you know that when you were writing it? Because I feel like when the book talk girlies get a hold of this movie, it's really gonna be a thing.
No, I hadn't really heard of it. I'm lately really getting into it, and it's of course completely a world that I love and where I feel very seen or something. So I'm super intrigued.
Have you talked to anybody about just the good girl essence of it all, how much that has already become a thing? Like, I think Harris talked about it right after the premiere. People are already yelling at him on the street about it. Like, you're gonna have to give the man some security, essentially for casting him in your movie.
Yeah, and in the beginning he was very startled by it, and now he just said yesterday, actually he said to me, he said, I'm very much used to it and I'm kind of starting to like it. So, not that this is a cue to action for everyone, but I do think it's good that he's kind of seeing, you have to see it also with a little bit of humor. But I remember talking to him, the sentence on the page, the line, can feel, it's scary to say that line, and also can feel a little, like, are you kidding me? Like, am I gonna say good girl to a woman? But first of all, I said whisper it, because that's always better. Like, you can just believe yourself more when you whisper. You should try this if you ever go acting. Whispering always works. That's why a lot of actors just act like that all the time. But, and just see it playful. It's playful. It's a provocation. It's, but I love it also when I told him the dog scene. I never said to him that he had to say good girl to the dog in the beginning, and he just did that out of himself. So I'm like, well, that's on him.
I love that. I mean, that's what you get, and we're gonna get out of here soon because we're gonna get our little contest, get some of you guys some movie tickets. Yes, exactly. But when you cast an actor of his caliber, even his age belies his talent and his years in so many ways, because that's what you get with them. I'd love for you to share one of those moments, because you have Oscar-winning actress Nicole Kidman, who has literally graced our screen for decades. But I know there has to be a moment when you're standing next to your DP, you're looking through this scene, and you're like, God damn, we got Nicole Kidman, because only she can do that. So what was that day, what was that moment where you were like, of course every day you're thankful that you have her, but that was the day where you were like, this is Nicole Kidman doing only what she can do?
Well, definitely the scene in the cheap hotel room and the climax at the end. I think that whole scene where they are kind of laughing and trying stuff out and fighting, being angry at each other, being embarrassed, being bored. They go through the whole marriage, if you will, those 12 hours, and then how it ends with her on her belly, and we're with her for so long, and then she finally climaxes, and she is able to make a sound that goes beyond vanity, that is, animalistic and beyond ego, and it's not something that you do for another, but it's something that sort of happens to you, and that is how I feel an orgasm can feel. Then I knew we have something completely unique and something I think we haven't really seen before, and we haven't seen her do before. So then I was like, oh my God, this is just a goddess from the heavens.
She is a goddess from heavens. MVR winner for Best Actress, Golden Globe nominated, and soon to be more. All right, last question. You've put this out in the world, and let me say, everybody involved is being really brave. What has been the best reaction that you've gotten back since you put it out in the world? Because this is the type of movie, these folks are gonna come up, they're gonna have questions. I had plenty the first time I saw it. So what has been your favorite reaction thus far with the film?
I just think the favorite reactions that I'm getting are people that feel a sense of liberation, a sense of allowing themselves to talk about things that they might be ashamed of, and especially women. You know, they see this and they kind of go like, yeah, I really like this. Yeah, this is how I feel, and not necessarily that people want to be, you know, crawling around and licking milk, not at all. But they do feel that they might feel ashamed around, you know, climaxing or finding their real kink or finding whatever, is it what I even want? All of those things were shy, you know, and I think people walk out of this hopefully a little more liberated, maybe a little more closer to being their authentic self, but most of all to go home and have some fun. And I'm not necessarily talking about with another person because I'm as single as Jesus Christ, anybody can be. But you know, you can also just unfortunately. I also made this film to just, like, it's kind of like...
It's a calling card
yeah,
now.
you know what I mean? Like, I was like, why don't we just put my phone number at the end of that? And be like, I'm joking, but I do hope that people leave the theater happier, and instead of being like, it's not punishing, it's meant to celebrate joy and celebrate being true to yourself.
I love that. Halina, thank you so much for making
you.
this movie. Thank you for being
Thank
here. All right.
Thank you.
So I got a few tickets down here, and for any of you that would like to come down here with our local social media people and tell us how much you love this movie, I will hand you out some extra tickets that you can take home so you can take someone else to the screening. Just come down here, we will get you all set up. Thank you, Halina, A24, and thank you all for being here.